What's up, guys? Welcome to Whiskey. My name is Jeff. This is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. That sounds interesting? Hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, let's jump into our review. Today we're looking at the Ardbeg 10-year-old. Stick around. This is one of those reviews. I can't believe I haven't done this yet. Like, I've done a few Ardbegs on this channel. I've done the Ugadal, I did the Black, I did the 5-year-old. I think that's it. I'm not sure what else, but yeah, man, I've never done the 10, and that's crazy. That's something we got to fix. So let's do that. Now, I'll start by saying that I haven't been super nice to Ardbeg over the last couple of years. Honestly, I've been talking a lot of smack about them. I'm always carrying on about how the brand is not where they used to be, and I still genuinely believe that. Like, they put way too much focus into these overpriced, limited edition releases, and that's a problem. Because I don't think that the regular range, the core range, has been getting the tender love and care that it deserves, that it used to get. And yeah, stuff like the Ugadal is very far from where it used to be. It's not nearly as good as it was, 5 or definitely 10 years ago. But for me, the biggest offender recently has been the 10-year-old. And it's not like I had one lesser bottle and wrote the entire expression off. No, I had like 2 or 3 bottles of Ardbeg 10 that just did not work for me. I mean, they weren't terrible, but they weren't where they used to be. They weren't that good. They were kind of dull. They were kind of flat, kind of lifeless. Like, I didn't taste that vibrant, salty, punchy, maritime beast that I used to drink pretty often. And that was a big disappointment for me because Ardbeg 10 was kind of an early love. Like, I used to buy this stuff all the time, especially when I was just getting into peat. This was my favorite entry-level go-to peated whiskey. And it's certainly not the case anymore. I recently did a list where I ranked a bunch of peated 10-year-old whiskeys, and this was number 5 on the list. Now, the list had 10 whiskeys on it, so this one did break into the top half. And if I'd made that list like 10 years ago, this one easily would have been my number 1. But nowadays, there are other whiskeys that I'll go to first for that entry-level peated fix. And we'll discuss what those are at the end of the video when we touch on value. But hey, this particular bottling might end up being a good one. There was a time that I thought that Ardbeg 10 was like this beacon of consistency, and I definitely wouldn't call it that now. There are definitely some lesser bottlings of it floating around out there, but there might be some better ones too. This one might end up being one of them. So let's find out. Let's jump into our review, see what the whiskey's all about, and in the meantime, if you could kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. I'm sure many of you already know this, but Ardbeg does not fail us for specs, and that's appreciated. So we've got 46% ABV, we've got non-chill filtered, we've got natural color. So we've got the classic Ardbeg look here, which everyone knows. Honestly, I think it's a rather iconic look. I think it's got a certain charm to it, even though it's not my favorite design-wise. Like, if this was a new design that recently came out, I'd be like, whatever. But because I've been buying bottles that look like this for so long, I would get pissed if anything changed about it. So even though it's not a great design, I'll give the design maybe 3 out of 5. Please never change this bottle. Kind of a weird bottle though with regards to what they choose to share or not share on the label. This is a non-chill filtered whiskey, and they do say it right here front and center on the label, which is great. That's information we need to know. But it's also a naturally colored whiskey, and they make no mention of it. Anyone who's ever had a glass of Ardbeg 10 and like held it up to the light knows there's no colorant in it, but they don't mention it here, and I don't know why. Like, the marketing team knows that there's this huge swath of their consumer base that wants naturally presented whiskeys, and they would know that saying that we've got a naturally colored whiskey here would garner a lot of appreciation and respect from those customers, but they don't put it there. I just think it's a weird move, but whatever. But yeah, Ardbeg bottle, classic. Please don't change it. Looks fine. I did not add water. Let's try our nose. Nice. Yeah, so this is, it's clean, it's maritime, it's peaty. Those like classic Ardbeg maritime notes definitely do pop out here. Seawater, salt, fishnets. There's a really nice kind of zesty lemon lime note here. We've also got iodine medicine cabinet notes in here. We've got sliced apples. We have caramel. And this one's kind of cool. Here in Taiwan, they have this practice where they burn paper money in order to respect their ancestors. It's a very distinct smell, and I'm getting a little bit of that in my glass here. So kind of an interesting one. Overall, this is a really nice nose. Classic Islay. Let's try the palate. Okay, nice and oily. And it's not too heavy of an arrival. It's quite measured. Getting lemon zest and maritime notes up front. Definitely some sea salt. Some ginger ale. We've also got a soda cracker type note. We've got smoked fish, like oily, smoky fish meat, which is kind of cool. It's not overly complex or anything, but it is clean and it's uniquely Ardbeg. And now our finish. Okay, this kind of keeps a lot of those same flavors going. We definitely do get a touch of oak in here, but it's not overbearing. In fact, it's more dry than it is oaky. Definitely some big peat, more smoked fish, get, black pepper, charcoal, and more of that iodine. Our finish is medium to long. So I did mention earlier that I wasn't really impressed with the last few bottles of Ardbeg 10 that I picked up, and that the brand is not doing as well as it could be these days. I still think that's true, of course, but it was such a crucial brand for me, especially early on when I was just getting into peat. It was such a big part of my development, which sounds weird, but you know what I mean, that I always do want to come back and check in on them every once in a while just to see where they're at. Of course, I do want to see a return to form from them, so the inevitable question is, are they getting any better? Are we seeing any improvements? Are they coming back around? And luckily, I think the answer for this bottle, at least, is yes. I like this bottle. I think it's fantastic stuff. For me, there's less flatness, there's less dullness that I've had with my previous few bottles, and I'm getting more of that sort of vibrant maritime sea salt note coming through, which is something you always want in your Ardbegs. So yeah, I'm actually doing pretty well with this one. I'm liking it. I still think it's one of the better 10-year-old peated whiskeys you're going to try. And you know that list that I mentioned earlier? I'm not ready to shuffle that around yet. That list still stands. I still do prefer the Lejeune 10, the Port Charlotte 10, yes, even the Talisker 10. But you know what? This is one of the best experiences that I've had with an Ardbeg 10 in years, and of course that makes me happy. So yeah, I see why this is still such a beloved whiskey. And you know, it's funny. I've been shitting on Ardbeg for like the last 2 years, and I might actually have to start calming down with that. Maybe. But no, this is great stuff. Again, great return to form. I'm going to score this one a solid 87. And that's such a huge jump in quality from those last 3 bottles I had. Those ones I would have scored like low 80s. So again, great to see them back on track. So I am going to recommend this one to you guys. It's still an Islay staple. It's one you should try if you haven't already. We have the citrus, we have the maritime notes, and of course we've got the big peat. We've got the punchiness, we've got the ruggedness. It's got good balance. It's all still there. Maybe not quite as Morris as it once was, but to be honest, that might have nothing to do with the quality of the whiskey itself, and more to do with me and just the way my tastes have changed over the years. Hard to tell there, but listen, if you've had Ardbeg 10 before, the good versions of it, then you know how great it is, how distinctive it is. And if you haven't had it yet, again, it's one of those like rites of passages. If you're getting into peat, smoky whiskeys, this is one you got to try. So yeah, definitely recommend it. Pretty good value here. This one did go up in price about 5 years back, but at least in my market, it's been pretty stable ever since then. For roughly the same price, I can also get the Port Charlotte 10, which yes, I do prefer. And for less, I can get stuff like Lejeune 10 or Talisker 10. So it's not the greatest value out there, but it's not bad. And honestly, it's not one of those things where it's like, don't buy this, buy those instead. Those are all distinctive whiskeys, as is this. So if you're looking for an Ardbeg, you need to buy an Ardbeg. None of those other whiskeys will do. Very distinctive stuff. Now, our next question is, how is this going to compare to the 5-year-old, the Wee Beastie? And personally, I do think that the 5-year-old is the better value buy. The 10-year-old, this bottle of 10-year-old is as good as the 5s. But again, it's not a consistent whiskey. My last few bottles have been disappointing. Meanwhile, the last few bottles of 5 I've had have been pretty solid, pretty stable, pretty consistent. And I do know that the 5 is considerably cheaper in most markets. Only slightly cheaper here in Taiwan, but in most markets, yeah, it is cheaper. So for me, that would be the go-to. That would be my first Ardbeg if I'm just getting started with the brand. But if you want the 10, of course, there's no substitute. You got to try the 10. And it's really good. All right, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you want to help support the channel, please consider becoming a patron. Otherwise, you can like, comment, and subscribe. That is always appreciated. And I do want to hear from you. Have you tried our Ardbeg 10? What were your thoughts? How would you compare it to the 5-year-old? finally, down in the comments, let me know what you want to see me review next, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.